Hey Hajj Hill, hope you are all well and safe. My name is Mr. Khan, and today we will be looking at the different types of straight lines. Real life scenarios include railway tracks, walls around our house or school, and roads. Some of the key words that we will be looking at today are lines, parallel, perpendicular, horizontal, and vertical lines. The big question that hopefully all of us will be able to do by the end of this lesson is on the right hand side. Right, so on this slide we have three different types of lines. The first is called vertical lines, the second are horizontal lines, and the third are diagonal lines. Vertical lines tend to run from top to bottom, or we can say up and down. Horizontal lines run from side to side, or we can say from left to right or right to left. Diagonal lines tend to run from corner to corner, or we can say at an angle. So diagonal lines are basically straight lines that are not horizontal or vertical. It's important to know that diagonal lines will always be straight. So here we're going to do our first example. The question is asking us how many vertical, horizontal and diagonal lines do these shapes have. So the first one we're going to look at are the vertical lines. So here we have one vertical line. We have another one here, 2. Another one here, 3. Remember, the vertical lines are the ones that go up and down. That's our fourth, that's our fifth, that's our sixth. And let's put a 6 at the bottom there. The next one we're going to look at are horizontal lines. Horizontal lines are the ones that run from side to side or left to right. So we've got one here at the top. So we have another one at the bottom here. More. So we have 2 horizontal lines. The last one that it's asking us to look at are diagonal lines. So diagonal lines are the ones that run at angles. So any straight line that is at an angle. So we can see this line right here is running at an angle. So that's our first one. This one, that's 2. This one is our third. Got another one here, that's our fourth, and lastly we've got another one here which is our fifth. So we'll write 5 here, and that's our answer. So for the second example, which I'm going to put on the board now, for the second example I want you to try this at home. So if you can just pause the video right now for half a minute to a minute, and I will put the answers up straight away. Right, so I've put the answers up on the board. Hopefully you all have got them right. Right, moving on to the next type of lines. Right, so on this slide we are looking at parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines run side by side and will never meet. So the distance between both lines will always remain the same. Even if I were to extend this, can you see they will never ever meet? It's important to understand that parallel lines can be vertical, just like that example there, horizontal, or diagonal. As long as the distance between the lines remains the same, the lines will never meet. Now, if the question ever asks you how many pairs of parallel lines are in a shape, we look at the 2 lines together. So if I take this example, we have 2 lines, but there's only 1 pair. So for this question, we have 1 pair of parallel lines. Right, so now perpendicular lines are lines that meet at right angles. So every time they meet, they make a right angle. So if I were to draw these 2 lines here right now, they don't form a right angle, so these lines are not perpendicular. whereas this one is. And here we would call this a pair of perpendicular lines. Right, so I want us to do this first example together, and then I want you to do the next example on your own. So how many pairs of parallel lines and perpendicular lines are there? So here we have a square. So we know the distance between here and here. These two lines are the same. The distance between this side and this side is the same. So we know these two lines are parallel. We can draw these arrows to show that they're parallel. And we know the distance between this line and this line will always be the same. So these two lines are also parallel. So I've drawn one arrow here just to show that this line is parallel to this line, and I've drawn two arrows here to show that this line is parallel to this line. So now the question is asking us, how many pairs of parallel lines do we have? So we've got one pair here and here, and we've got our second pair, which is on the right hand side and the left hand side. So we have two pairs of parallel lines. Now the second part of the question is asking us, how many pairs of perpendicular lines are there? So now if we just look at the square and we look at how many right angles are formed, we know that there's one right angle here, one right angle here, one right angle there, and lastly one right angle there. So this line and this line is one pair. This line and this line is our second pair. This line and this line is our third. This line and this line is our fourth. Right, so for the next example we have a triangle. I want you to pause the video for about half a minute to a minute and attempt this question on your own, and I will put the answers up shortly. Right, so as you must have worked out, we've got 0 pairs of parallel lines and only one pair of perpendicular lines, which are those two lines there. Right, so for your independent task, what I want you to do is attempt all 3 of these top questions. So I want you to draw the line on a piece of paper and write next to it what type of line it is, whether it's horizontal, vertical or diagonal. And then the second part, I want you to pick out 3 shapes. On your piece of paper, I want you to first draw out the shape, and then I want you to write next to it how many pairs of parallel lines there are and how many pairs of perpendicular lines there are. And I'm going to need you to upload that picture of the first task and the second task onto ClassCharts. Right. Thank you for your attention. I'll see you next lesson.